Welcome to Brand of the Match. In this series, Joelle and I are going to be debating who's the best brand in a series of competitions. This is heavily leaning on the World Cup, and there's a deep irony in this, and that neither of us are sporting fans, but we're going to make it work. So we're going to be debating who's the best out-of-home brand, who is the most viral brand, which brand uses personal brand most effectively. The rules are pretty simple. We're going to have the debate. We've got a couple of cards to show you. If there's a challenge, if I really disagree, I'm going to be flashing my red card. A yellow card if I'm not sure and I want us to talk about something a bit more. And of course, the whistle to start and end the show. At the end of each episode, we're going to be making the decision as to who we think deserves brand of the match for each category. And we want you guys to tell us in the comments if we've got it wrong. We can't wait to get into this and see how it goes and hear what you think of the show.
May the best player win.
Okay, we are back. Ready to blow your whistle to get the show going?
Ready.
Okay, 3, 2, 1. All right, today, brand of the match, we are talking about the personal brand category, one incredibly close to my heart. So we start with the definition of personal brand. For me, this is kind of straightforward. Personal brand is where someone turns themselves into the story, or a business decides to take an individual and make them the center of what they're talking about. Does that resonate for you?
Well, with every definition, I always have to start with what it actually isn't. So a personal brand is not me posting pictures of cocktails on holiday or me having an Instagram account and having 10,000 followers. A personal brand is intentionally building your own profile to shoehorn a business underneath it or to shoehorn some kind of commercial activity. That's what I see it as.
Oh, okay. Am I going to red? Am I going to yellow? I'm going to yellow card that. Because I do lots of coaching with individual marketing managers, heads of marketing. I think there's a misnomer that you don't have a personal brand until you decide to use it to build a business. When actually, all of us have a personal brand. Like, we all have a reputation. If brand is what someone says about you when you're not in the room. And therefore, everyone can be talked about when they're not in the room. So we all build personal brands in what we say, what we wear, how we speak. I agree with you that there's a difference between taking it seriously or not. But I actually spend a lot of time working with like mid-career marketers to help them understand that they really do have a personal brand, even if that's just like in an organization or in the industry in a small way. So yeah, I'm gonna yellow card that. I think personal brand starts at the beginning.
Okay, I'd have to yellow that again.
We're gonna yellow that yellow.
What you're explaining there is a reputation, whereas a personal brand exists to build a business. That might literally look like I'm an employee, I want to get a promotion, so I'm building a personal brand.
Or I'm a freelancer and I want to secure some work. Okay.
Definitely. But a reputation is essentially, as you said, what people are talking about when you're not there. But a personal brand is more about intentionally curating your online presence to accelerate some kind of business growth, whether that's literally just the business of me as an employee at XYZ company.
I hear what you're saying. I think we're in semantics. I don't want a yellow card.
Yeah.
So we're going to move on. What we're talking about is intentionally building a personal brand for like professional gain.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so who do you think deserves some special mention here?
We cannot talk about personal brand right now without talking about Emma Grede. So if you don't know about Emma Grede, she is the co-founder of Good American, founding partner of Skims, is British-born entrepreneur, businesswoman, media mogul. And what's really, really interesting is in the last few years, she's suddenly stepped into the limelight. She spent the last 20, 30 years building brands behind the scenes, building the Kardashian empire, essentially removed from the limelight and in the shadows, but has now suddenly stepped in front of it. And she's been on a massive PR campaign to promote her new book. And she's an interesting example of personal brand because it's very clearly not to build a business from scratch. It's probably to build some kind of legacy and a name for herself beyond the brands that she's built for other people. But it's just a perfect example of how personal brand isn't just for somebody who is wanting to go from manager to director or wanting to scale their startup. There are also examples of people who are very successful behind the scenes, but have now realized that all of their work lives in conversations in rooms that don't reward the scale of their achievement.
I'm just in awe of Emma because she's got 4 kids and the way she talks about motherhood is pretty gnarly. So I agree with that. For me, I feel like it's the TikTok black hole you're in. So I'm in the Grace Beverley thing. Like that is the hole I am thrown headfirst into. So for me, I feel like I can't talk about personal brand without talking about her. And honestly, my only take on it is just awe at how hard it is to do what she's doing. Like, emotionally, how hard it is. She's about to have a baby, and I am watching carefully to see how, like, where is that line gonna be? Is there gonna be a line of what is public and what is private? I really respect the level of vulnerability and the level of transparency she is going to in the name of personal brand building and in the name of, like, a commercial end and the platform that she's creating for herself. That, the vulnerability, but also just, like, the volume. It's a serious full-time job creating that much documentary about your own existence. Like, it's phenomenal. Like, the motherhood thing for me is just, like, is super interesting because I've had to navigate really recently. I feel so ridiculous talking about my own personal brand in the same context as these, like, power women, but I've had to navigate how much I do and don't wanna share. Um, and there's a really clear, there's a moment where you say, "I absolutely know I will get more likes if I put my baby's face on the internet." I absolutely know I would have got loads of likes if I live blogged from hospital. I chose not to do those things for reasons that feel really obvious to me, but, like, at the expense of personal brand growth. And that's what I find fascinating about Grace Beverley. Like, I don't think she's gonna draw the line anywhere. I think she's gonna show us an awful lot of that journey. She showed us, every single detail of her wedding, so it doesn't feel like anything's gonna be off the cards.
Absolutely. I think we obviously started this discussion figuring out what personal brand actually means. For somebody to share quite literally everything. I mean, there's lots of things that I could share, that you could share, that would drive engagement,
Mm.
that everybody would be interested in, but that does not serve your long-term positioning. So personal brand has to be intentional. And what Grace has done brilliantly is that she has that commercial savviness, and she has a team, and she has an infrastructure that is working behind her, such that when she's building her personal brand, it's not just here's what I ate for dinner and hopefully that drives more sales.
I really wanna emphasize how heavy that weight is. So, yes, it's intentional, yes, it's strategic, but it is deeply personal. And that workload hits differently. I said it before, but one, the volume of the workload. And two, it's going to be emotionally raw. You are going to have skin so thick to be able to put yourself out there over and over and over again and deal with what comes back from that. And I think that's, yes, it's helped by the team. Yes, it's helped by the support system. Yes, it's commercially very savvy, but it's a massive sacrifice, which I think we kind of lose sight of because we're so, like, in awe of it, and I guess all a bit, like, jealous of the platform that it creates. So we actually stop to say, fair play, you're really taking the toll for that. Like, you will be having sleepless nights over what someone said in your comments. There's no way you can't take some of that to heart, and that's gonna, like, get to your soul in a way that I think is quite, I mean, personally, I find it very specific and, like, someone can say something in a comment and it can really upset me.
Absolutely. I mean, I can relate to that too. I'm going to take a little bit of a detour. We spoke about how personal brand can really hit, especially when it's comments that feel a bit close to home, whether it's people that are negative towards you or just having to show up on the platforms when you quite literally can't be bothered. Secondly, we've seen this shift in personal brands that are essential. Nowadays, there's a real push towards if you don't have a personal brand on LinkedIn, then how do you expect to be fast tracked during that hiring process? And equally, if you're an employee, visibility can actually drive growth and speed in your progression at a company. I'm going to mention Sheerlux because I think what's fascinating to me about them is they exist in a really old school industry like publishing, where most of the old school legacy brands are struggling to retain their relevance and revenue. They've essentially made their key employees influencers, and those influencers are driving enterprise value for the brand. Hence, that they've sold for however many million it was, I believe 40 million. But that's all as a result of those individuals' personal brands. What you mentioned there about being unsure about whether you should post your baby's face, or a mother being unsure about how much of their life they should show, they have worked really, really well to understand, first off, who is willing to be the face of their brand. Not every employee at Sheerlux is part of their employee program. Secondly, who are those voices? What's worth them talking about? And what I think really drove their enterprise value is that they didn't see personal brand as a threat. So many brands I speak to see personal brand as a threat. Oh, we love that our employees could post about this, but what if they get poached by X, Y, and Z. What they did brilliantly is they created an in-house agency where when those influencers, i.e. employees, got a brand deal, the agency pocketed 20%. So it was a win-win situation. So I am Sam, who works at SheerLuxe. I have 500,000 followers, and Boots has approached me to create a campaign. SheerLuxe are going to take 20% of that, and they're going to cheer me on to also be an ambassador for SheerLuxe. It was a win-win situation, and they saw the power of personal brand as a opportunity, not as a threat.
That's such a good point. It drives me bonkers. There are so many things about founders and managers that drive me bonkers. Like underinvesting in personal development is one, for fear that someone's going to get so smart they're going to get another job. Like not letting people network and build their own communities because they might meet someone that gives them another job. But the biggest is, I don't want you building your personal brand because you're going to look more tempting to other employers. Sort your own house out. Like make sure you're a good place to work so that people want to stay. Don't like keep them in the cellar. It's such a like Fritzl approach to be like, I just won't let you see anyone else. And then like, if no one's looking at you, then you're going to carry on working for me. That's just not the way you incubate talent. So I really agree. And I didn't know about that, like the detail of that SheerLuxe example. That's so cool. Right, quick halftime ad break. And this one's brought to you by Stickybeak. Stickybeak is something I've been genuinely using for years now. It's rapid consumer research built specifically for FMCG marketers. It tests packaging concepts and campaigns with real people fast, under 48 hours and sometimes like 2 hours. It's become a cornerstone of how we test insights at my agency, Brand Hackers. I was working with an iced coffee brand recently, testing cold brew formats before committing to production. We had real consumer data, purchase intent, broken down by age and gender before a single unit was made, and it completely changed how those products went to market. The process was stupidly simple too. I hit share and could send the results straight to the founder's WhatsApp the next morning. Just clear insights I could actually act on. In FMCG, the decisions are too important to run on gut feel. The margins are tight, retail is unforgiving, and by the time you realise something isn't landing, you've already spent all the budget. In my opinion, the best FMCG teams aren't treating consumer research like some big annual project anymore. They're building it into the weekly workflows. Fast feedback means quicker decisions, fewer expensive mistakes, and when you walk into a retailer's pitch backed by real data, it's a completely different conversation. Stickybeak, rapid consumer feedback built for FMCG. Check out stickybeak.co or the show notes for more details. Now, second half of the match. Let's go. We've got to talk about Perfect Ted here. Like the Perfect Ted Heinz collab. We don't even know if this was a real collab, but the recent activation they did, putting that Heinz product in the corner of every shot, literally blew up LinkedIn, and they really deserve to get all the airtime they got for that, because I think that's just so brilliant. The story goes that Stephen Bartlett said to one of the guys in the Perfect Ted team, I'm going to fly you to Vegas, LA, somewhere incredible if you post on LinkedIn every day for a year. And that was a few years ago. And I know that like began to seed a real culture of focus on it. And now it feels like it's almost, I mean, I'd love to understand whether it feels like it's an expectation for everyone in that business to grow their personal brand. And I suspect perhaps like SheerLuxe, it's not an expectation of everyone, but it's just really encouraged. But I love that they're thinking of that as a core campaign touch point. Like that is the campaign. The campaign doesn't exist anywhere else. It's a personal brand campaign.
Personal brand building and employee generated content only works when there's an incentive. So you cannot just walk down to somebody and say, hey, build your personal brand because we're launching something and we need it to go viral. What is in it for them? A really interesting case study I just recently saw is there's a viral plastic surgeon called Dr. Miami in the US. He has become quite famous for his celebrity clients who he does like lots of different procedures on. And one of his employees who gained a profile actually left the company and has since posted her version of the events and why that didn't work. And it often comes back to the fact that if there wasn't an incentive in the first point, then people feel quite resentful when they're made to post consistently and they don't feel like there's any true reward for them other than a pat on the back. So I have had the conversations with brands, and it's something that I'm incorporating in other brand social strategies, is if there's a launch and somebody is the face of a brand continuously, they should be treated like talent. They should have contractual terms that protect their likeness, and they are treated in the same way as an external contractor.
That is so interesting. I'm not gonna raise a card, but I do want to dig into this because maybe I'm getting this wrong. I run a business. I've got about 30 employees. we have gone on a journey of this. We had the phase where I was like mandating personal brand building. That went down like a lead balloon because loads of people quite rightly were like, this really isn't for me. Fine. We're now, I think, in a really happy place where some people in the team go for it and enjoy doing it. And I think do it, I hope, because they're like, the incentive is the people that slide into DMs. For sure, the incentive is in some way because that's when they're going to get the killer job offer. In a few years' time, I'm under no illusion that that's the thing that's going to mean that they get poached by someone. And I will be so chuffed to see them go off and do some incredibly cool job that they never would have got without their personal brand. I'm not offering them an incentive. And I don't, my kind of question around a card was like, I'm not sure they need one from me. I think some people are just like, get it, and therefore are up for it. And instead, the way I see it is that I've just got to really foster an atmosphere where that's really celebrated and supported. Am I naive? Do I need to be, do they need to be on talent contracts? Do I need to be giving personal brand bonuses? Am I thinking about it wrong?
So I'm not suggesting that if you pose for the office Christmas party photo that you should be sending an invoice
Like,
the evening later.
There's a modelling fee for my
Yes.
face in the selfie.
Absolutely. That's not the case. However, if you look at brands like Currys, who had that article in Marketing Week, I believe it was, where their CMO had openly spoken about how their employee-generated content had driven actual enterprise value for them as a brand. If that is the case for a big brand where one employee on top of their salary job is taking on scripting work, is essentially doing the work of an influencer, then I think there should be a conversation and some kind of negotiation on what that looks like commercially.
That's very
Because
interesting.
if it doesn't happen, you get employees that are resentful, and some brands have counteracted this by controversially using actors in employee-generated content instead of actual employees.
That's very interesting. Well, Laura Roman, who runs my recruitment business, she runs App Talent. She's an absolutely phenomenal recruiter and has a very strong LinkedIn following, will be listening to this thinking like, okay. So Laura, I see you. We will discuss turning you into a celebrity. All right, let's blow our whistles and close this debate. 3, 2, 1. Okay, so I think you've taught me something today. I did not know about how Sherlock's made that happen. I knew that Sherlock's were doing it. I follow them. I feel completely invested in the brand in a different way because of what they've done with personal branding. But I did not realize like how systematic it was, this internal agency model. That is so cool. So to me, yes, I want to see what Grace Beverley's baby looks like. And I'm so curious to see like whether we get the live stream of her recovery. But I think Sherlock's deserve the Champion of Personal Brand award because I just think that's phenomenal how they've made that happen. Do you agree with that?
Completely agree. I mean, to be set up as a business where your employees are influential enough to be ambassadors and to take on, I mean, they've done brand deals with like British Airways, for them to have the power to take that on as an individual, and then for the company to also profit 20% and to have sold the agency for 40 million. I mean,
also, I love that like everyone's winning from that.
yes.
It's so nice and like value creation in every sense. Great, we're agreed. To me, if we're looking to the future, we've already talked about a couple of examples that feel so powerful, but are still actually really rare. Like we talked about PerfectTed's and Sherlock's. I don't have that many more on that list. Like I can't think of that many examples. You mentioned Currys. There are a few, but this is not common behavior. These are still like outliers. So I think the future is many more brands taking personal branding of their employees seriously. And I wonder whether it's going to start to be part of employment contracts. Like at the moment, it's all an afterthought. But where are the job ads that say, I need you to do X, Y, and Z, and I need you to build a personal brand? And I'm going to be unequivocal about that. So I think we're going to start to see it mandated.
I can actually see from an organizational perspective that companies will set up a personal brand strategist for each department. So the marketing team has one person that might help with LinkedIn writing, so it doesn't become an additional 3-hour gig to write a LinkedIn post about something that you've been working on all day.
I talk about this a lot internally and like a little bit externally, but if you think, back to the 60s, you would have a publicist. It was very, very normal for all leadership teams to have a publicist and for that to be a core part of any org structure. And that role has really died a death. And so I think we're going to see the resurgence of the publicist, which is basically the personal brand strategist.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. Mic drop. You heard it here first.
Yeah, and perhaps even physically executing the content. So like writing.
Definitely.
obviously video production, because if you've been working all day on a campaign, who has time to
Yeah.
like script and video and whatever?
No, absolutely. And it's the same job. It's just going to be really recut in terms of the output of that role and how that role is going to be structured for a completely new media landscape. Done.
100%. Good match.
Good match. That's full time on today's episode. Thank you so much from Joelle and I for listening. One small ask, please subscribe wherever you're listening. It makes a huge difference to us and helps us keep bringing you bigger and better ideas. Follow us on Instagram, TikTok and LinkedIn. All the handles are in the show notes. And jump in the comments if today's episode sparked anything. We'd love to hear from you. See you next week.